You are back. You are normal. This is Your Normal Podcast, and I'm your host, Blake Russell. It's a Monday morning in St. Louis, Missouri. No idea what the weather's like right now. I haven't been outside. It's been one of those mornings. Mad shout out to Naomi for coming on and speaking candidly about the topics that she did. It was much appreciated, Naomi. I hope you enjoyed the episode. This week, I'm super excited. I have an individual on here, Monica Johnson. She is a hairstylist in St. Louis, Missouri. She has a shop in Maplewood, Missouri. So if you're interested, look her up on Instagram. I'll give herself a chance to like promote herself and all that good stuff. Monica, can you introduce yourself, please?
Hi, I'm Monica. Like you said, I'm a hairstylist in Maplewood. I have a little shop. Yeah.
Hell yeah. I've gone and I recently decided to grow out my hair, and I went and saw Monica. I went to Monica's shop and I was like, "What do I do?" And she was like, "Well, just grow it, you know."
Let nature do its job.
Yeah. I felt really silly that day, but I appreciate it. Her shop's really cute. I think you should check it out.
Thanks.
So Monica, I appreciate you coming on. You're another person that like reached out to me via the email option that I've been promoting, which was awesome. And like all our other guests, I want you to, I feel like you had maybe at least a mildly difficult time coming up with 5 words to describe yourself.
I definitely got some help from my mom.
Shout out to mom. Thanks, mom. But let's go through this list. So I'm going to do them in no particular order. So
Okay.
This first one here, loving. I think that loving is a term that we all know what that means, but think of a specific incident that you have engaged in that shows that you're a loving person.
I don't know. I just feel like sometimes I'm the person that people come to when they don't need tough love, when they need kind of like the tender side of things.
Nice.
But a specific thing?
Yeah.
Oh
sure.
boy. I don't know. I'm helping my best friend plan her wedding. Does that count?
That's loving. That counts. I endorse. It's that's really nice. Weddings in COVID, right? Is it like gonna be way later for them or what?
Yeah, it's gonna be at the end of the year.
Mm-hmm.
Very small, in Oregon, which I'm pretty pumped about. So hopefully this summer everyone gets vaccinated and it just feels a little bit more comfortable.
I hope that COVID's at least somewhat under control and we have normal lives, obviously. Last year I was in a wedding and I had to I didn't feel comfortable and I didn't go, and I still feel so like ugh about it. So hopefully everything's under control. I saw you tweet that you're going to Oregon twice this year.
Yes. So actually I'm doing a little road trip with my mom. Mm-hmm. She's got some stuff she's got to bring up to her house in Seattle. So I think we're going to plan on, I'm going to go, she's going to drop me off in Oregon and that's where my best friend lives. And cool. I think we might do some dress shopping or something, just kind of hang out. I haven't seen her since last summer, so it'll be good.
That'll be super good. Yeah.
Yeah. It's been a long time.
Yeah. That makes me think of my friend Mark, who lives in Los Angeles, and it's been over a year too.
Yeah.
To get out that way. I've never been to Oregon either, so you'll have to take a lot of pictures.
Me neither. Yeah. I might have been on a road trip, but like I don't remember being there.
Sure. Yeah. It's different when you're an adult and like you can like soak it in and all that shit. Yeah. Cool. So this next word I have here, curious. What are you curious about, Monica?
I don't know. I just like learning.
Okay.
I don't know. I feel like if I see something or hear something in the news or hear about something new, like I want to dig into it and not just be like, oh, okay, that's a thing. Like, I don't know. Or
go ahead. Sorry.
Go ahead. No, sorry.
I was gonna ask you, like, are you speaking about like what came up in my mind when you said that was like news and like social media and people just being like, oh, it says that, so I believe it. Are you saying that you're one of the people that like likes to take a step further and read and like verify information?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. I'm a multiple source kind of gal.
Hell yeah. There's not enough
Hell yeah.
not enough of you out there. What about I have to say, I do like I enjoy your posts on Instagram, like of your apartment and all the stuff you've been doing to it. Your apartment looks
Thanks.
badass. It looks badass.
Thanks. It's literally all I've been doing because I don't go anywhere.
Yeah. We've done a lot to the house too here. And it's like I get done with one thing. I'm like, okay, what can I do next?
Your house is so cute.
Oh, thank you. But yeah, that leads me to the next one here, creative. So outside of your apartment, like, are you creative in other avenues?
Well, my job is a creative job. My mom's an artist. Mm-hmm. And so like I've never been one for like pen to paper or like paint or anything like that, but hair is just kind of like the way I can express myself and help other people express themselves in clothes and stuff like that. But yeah, I just like, I don't know. I just like doing things creatively, like finding other ways to do things.
Yeah. And I want to know, like, when people come to you for their hair, do they have like specific things in mind, or is it just like, I'm kind of thinking this and this, and then you have the creative liberty to like make it whatever, or how does that work?
So repeat clients, like my regulars, will just kind of be like, oh, I'm thinking about this. Like, what do you think? And they kind of let me go out on my own. Mm-hmm. Sometimes I'll get people that come in with like pictures of wigs that are like perfectly styled and not human hair. And I'm like, So I have to get a little creative with like how to, in hair school, you're taught not to say no, but to say, okay, what about this? Lead you in like a similar direction, but more obtainable and stuff like that. So I get a mix between the two. I really like the ones where I can just kind of do whatever I want, but
yeah, that would be fun. A lot of the pictures that you post, like, I don't know anything about hair. Like, I had to go to you to be like, how do I grow hair? And you were like, grow it. But I mean, the work you do looks awesome. I don't think I've ever told you that. I think it looks really cool. And
appreciate it.
Yeah. This next word here, I wrote a little ditty here. It was sincere with a question mark attached to it. So can you tell me, one, why you chose sincere, and two, why you were unsure about it?
Well, the question mark, I think, was just towards the end of, that was my last word on the list, because I was just like, is this what you're wanting from me? like I didn't know what direction to go. But sincere, I don't know. I just feel like I'll tell you how it is, but cushiony in a loving way. Like I'm not gonna beat around the bush with people most of the time. But I'm also just not gonna, pardon my French, I'm not gonna bullshit anybody about like life.
Bullshit. So would it be passive aggressiveness? Is that something that you dislike?
Least favorite thing ever.
Oh, me too. I would give you a knuck if we could. Yeah.
Let's do it. Like,
it's so terrible.
If something's on your mind and something's bugging you, no one can read minds. And if you get mad because someone can't read your mind, that's on you.
For sure. We were Sam and I were watching this new show that popped up on Netflix called Canine Intervention. It's like a dog trainer show. But okay, I have a point to this. We're gonna get to it. So it was like this guy goes into people's houses and fixes these dogs that are having disobedient behaviors and stuff. But this one couple was like fucking arguing over this dog. And this guy came in and was just teaching them about their dog. And then they felt like safe to like freely talk because there was a person in the room, and they fixed a lot of their relational issues. And it was just because they talked about it. And it just blows my mind that more people like don't just say things out loud to each other. It doesn't make sense.
Yeah.
It doesn't make sense.
Just be candid.
Yeah.
You can't get anything out of life if you're being fake or
bottling it up and shit.
Bottling it up.
Last word, Monica. Resilient. I chose the best for last. That's my favorite word you chose.
Thanks. Yeah. Am I supposed to like go into that?
Yeah, you can even talk about like what we're planning on talking. Talk about whatever you want to talk about.
Yeah. So it feels weird to call yourself or to say anything complimentary of yourself. You know, like you're always taught humility and stuff, but I haven't been through what a lot of other people have been through, but a lot of people haven't been through what I've been through. You know what I mean? So I'm somewhere in the middle of just life happening and getting through it and just choosing every day as a new day and starting over. And I think I try really hard to just kind of start the day over, you know?
I like that. And I don't remember exactly the words you just chose, but I liked it. Like the, like having empathy, but like, I forget how you put it, but it made me think of, like, it's always a fine balance between like recognizing that like shit could be worse, but this is really bad for me also. And like
you can't
somewhere
just
in the middle, somewhere in the middle. Yeah.
Yeah. You know, you get told a lot that people have it worse. Everyone does. Everyone in any sort of situation, people try to say it as a comforting thing. I don't know who thinks that's comforting. Not me. But yeah, it can be said for anyone. Shit gets worse for other people, but that doesn't take away from what you're dealing with and what you're having to go through.
Yeah, it's super invalidating for anybody that's ever said that, or like it's just invalidating. And like, yes, we all know that to be objectively true. Like most cases, there's probably somewhere out there that has it worse off, but like that still doesn't take away from like what the fuck you're going through. And like, so I think that's super important to say it loud. Appreciate you saying it. I have a list of topics. We're going to get to what we can get to. We're on a timeline here. Okay.
Yeah.
But everybody kind of, so far, we know that you're a hairstylist. You live in St. Louis. Your shop's in Maplewood. I just want to do no prompts. I want people to know who you are. Monica, like you could do childhood, you could do now. I don't really care. Speak about yourself. Why should people know you?
Oh, well, I guess so I'm 23. I'm a Libra. Let's talk about that. Because I think it plays into a lot of this. But live on my own. Got a little shotgun apartment in South City. I've got an awesome boyfriend of 6 years this month.
Shout out Angelo.
Yeah. Shout out to Angelo. Love you. He's probably going to be watching this like, oh my God. But let's see. I'm born and raised in St. Louis. That's an interesting fact. Got to get out of here.
Whereabouts in St. Louis did you grow up?
Oh, well, that's a whole nother thing. So I've moved. I counted it once in high school. I've moved like 20 something times. I always, lots of apartments, lots of little like townhomes, which honestly sounds kind of rough, but it was awesome. There's so much diversity in St. Louis every 5 miles. I like to say that I've always lived near Manchester Road. Like that's how you can track. I've slowly just gone east down Manchester Road. Like it's weird. I have actually moved about 5 miles east every time.
That's interesting.
Yeah. So yeah, born and raised. Shout out to St. Luke's Hospital. I think that's where I was born. My mom's gonna be like, no, that's not it.
Hopefully with the shout
out. But yeah, that's about it. There's not much more about me. I have 2 cats. They're awesome. They're both sunbathing right now.
What are your cats' names? I don't remember. Forgive me. I've met them and I don't remember their names.
I'm gonna get a lot of judgment for this. Fatty. Self-explanatory, but there's a reason.
Okay. Please.
So when we adopted her because she was fat. She was sitting in this cage, getting fatter and fatter. But her name was Jade. It's my best friend's name. I didn't want we didn't meet until like right around there. But also Jade just like didn't fit. It doesn't fit her. So we just kind of started calling her that and it stuck. And now she has like 20 names.
Yeah.
And then there's Sassy, which again, self-explanatory. My
So
little cousin named her that.
Oh, that's cute. How old's your little cousin?
She's in like 8th grade now, but she was super small. It's 2013.
Okay. So like,
yeah,
whatever that is, little kid.
8 years ago. Oh my
yeah.
God. Yeah.
So it'd be safe to say that Fatty has like various nicknames, but Fatty's just like the number one nickname.
Yeah, but at the vet, she still goes by Jade, so we don't get judged.
Okay. Please.
Her government name is Jade.
Yeah, it's by the book. So you've lived in St. Louis most of your life. You've moved a lot, and you're currently in South City on your 5 miles east path. So
yeah, I'd say it might be actually closer to about 2 or 3. I was in Maplewood, but yeah.
Yeah. You lived you lived near me, right? You lived by that park. What was the park called?
Yeah, it was by Reinhardt.
Okay.
Yeah. Or junior high if you've been in Maple. It was junior high before it was Reinhardt. But yeah.
I wouldn't know that, but thanks for somebody's like, hell yeah, Monica. That's right. So this kind of naturally segues into our conversation here, like our next topic. You wanted to talk about like growing up in a family, being the youngest child of your immediate family, as well as experience being a child of divorce. So can you speak a little bit about like what it was like growing up as the youngest person, and like speak as much as you want about the divorce? When was the first, and tell us a little bit about that.
Well, my whole life, my parents have been divorced. It's not like I was super young. So that's not, I find it weird sometimes when people's parents are still together, which sounds like it sounds kind of depressing, but also not. Mm-hmm. Like when people are like, oh, like this is my childhood home. I'm like, oh, I don't have one of those, but I also lived in like 12 cool places. Sure. But yeah, I was super young. I don't really remember much of it. It wasn't really, this sounds bad. It's not a big deal to me. My parents are two very different people. I am very lucky to have been raised by both of them in their own way. Like I feel like I got some cool traits from both of them. Mm-hmm. So yeah. And then being the youngest, I basically got away with whatever I wanted.
What do you mean? Like what?
I never did anything terrible because, you learned from the oldest. Mm-hmm. But I also had like the least amount of rules, the least amount of anything, just because, I'm the youngest of 4. Mm-hmm. So I lived a pretty low key, easy breezy life. The most they'd get onto me as like cleaning my room. My grades were average, Yeah. So
did you so you said you were really young when they got divorced. Were you like a baby? Were you?
I was like kindergarten, maybe. I don't even remember.
So you kind of recall it, like you kind of recall it happening.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Okay. And then you mentioned like you were still raised by both, and so because I know your brother and I know you, and but I don't think any of us have ever talked about this. Like I have this maybe it's a misconception, but I thought your mom didn't live in St. Louis, at least for a period of time. Is that true?
She just moved, like after I graduated hair school. So like I was raised with her. Yeah, no, she moved to Seattle after I was done with hair school. So I moved out of the house when she moved.
So like super recently though, like last few years, right?
Yeah. When did like 2017, like 2018 maybe?
What took her to St. Louis or Seattle?
She doesn't really, other than my brother and I, there's no family here for her. Mm-hmm. Her boyfriend works for Microsoft. He's up there, big headquarters or whatever. It's pretty. She's always wanted to live there.
Cool. Yes. I went to Seattle.
Empty nester.
Yeah. So what did because it's interesting to me that you threw out like a disclaimer, like it sounds kind of sad, or like, but like your known experiences, like having 2 different parents and 2 different households, 2 different parenting styles, probably 2 different personalities. What what was your structure like as a kid? Do you remember? Like, did you go like, was it half and half? Like, what did it look like?
So, I mean, luckily for me, I don't think that there was, like I said, I was super young. So I'm sure if there was some sort of huge battle for custody or whatever, I wouldn't remember it. But it was pretty easy breezy. Like my parents weren't best friends, but you know, me and my brother definitely got a say in what we were doing, especially by like middle school. But it was never like we were never withheld from one parent. It was pretty amicable most of the time, you know. Like I'm not saying it was a perfect easy childhood, but I think looking back at my age, I'm not too upset about it.
Yeah.
So
That's super like, I don't know. That's it. It's not ideal when parents get divorced, but it sounds like other people out
it's
there
also
like.
sometimes not
Go ahead.
ideal when parents stay together.
That's true. The flip side of that is very true.
Yeah.
Yeah, there's challenges with both. But it
Mhm.
sounds like within your situation, like I know other people that have had worse experiences, but that kind of goes into what we were talking about earlier. There's
Yeah.
probably other stuff with your situation that was difficult.
Yeah.
But mostly it sounds like a positive childhood.
Yeah.
I want to know like, so that happened when you were super young, and then it
Mhm.
sounds like it didn't really have at least any conscious impact on you, like to its
Well,
severe.
I gained two siblings out of it. So
Mm,
my I have a older stepbrother that passed away and my
mhm,
older stepsister.
mhm,
And they became my siblings when I was so young that I don't consider them, you know, as
mhm.
step siblings. They're just my brother and sister, you know. So I
Were
was
they on your dad's side or your mom's side?
on my dad's, so my stepmom's kids.
Okay, cool.
Hmm.
So they're just to you, they're your siblings.
Yeah.
It's just like,
I
yeah,
was just, yeah, I don't remember really much before them.
that's super cool. You got like bonus siblings. That's cool.
Yeah.
Um, but it makes me think because you disclosed to me, I think even prior to like reaching out to me, that you've had a history with mental health challenges. And can you speak a little bit about like the onset of that? Like, did you notice things when you were a kid? Like, when did you really start noticing that you were having challenges with that? And like, what did that look like? And when did you start to like become open to like, I need help with this and all that kind of stuff?
Oh, well, I don't think I was the one that said I need help. I think it was more I was in middle school. I think when stuff kind of started, you know, um I mean, like I said, looking back, I am really happy with how I was raised and stuff, but you know, hormones and all of that. I was lucky that my parents did put me in therapy when I was young because I use a lot of that now.
Hmm.
So, you know, through middle school and high school, there was some struggles and with, especially, I still deal with like anxiety. Um, Not so much the depression anymore.
Hmm.
You know, but I mean, everyone has their days.
Hmm.
But yeah, it was definitely like started with the depression and anxiety. And I think that just kind of came with everything that was happening. And my little, you know, 13-year-old mind not being able to understand the good that was coming out of some of the bad, you know.
Hmm.
um but yeah, I'm very grateful for all the therapy I went to when I was young
Yeah.
because it's impacted me in a huge way.
When you started going to therapy, that was middle school, like 13, like something like that.
Uh-huh. Hmm.
Okay. Do you?
I think
It's
I
interesting.
think so.
Yeah, it's interesting for me because within my current role as a therapist, like
Yeah.
I work with kids and shit like that. And shit like that. I work with kids and
We're
adults. Yeah,
gonna be watching this in 10 years, be like, oh my God.
the and adults was shit like that. So my bad. But I'm curious, like, do you recall, like, did you see multiple therapists? Did you see one? Do you remember the stuff you did with your therapist? Like, do you remember that
I
stuff?
have a funny story.
Okay.
So, you know, like feeling or being young and the youngest, kid, you know, you're kind of, like I said, the rules relax, but also you're just kind of like the leftover. That sounds so bad, but I remember my mom calling to book my therapist. I don't want to say her name.
Okay, good.
But
cool.
she has a great name, honestly. But and she moved to Texas out of the blue and just dipped and left me. It was just like, okay. And this was what, like 2008. So it was like before Zoom and all that. So, you know, that was the whole thing. I quit therapy cold turkey because I got ditched.
Oh no! Did she get so like? That's a huge thing. Like, because
it was a big deal.
Because people are people, and like they need to like move on to in their life and like be able to like do whatever they want. But like for
Absolutely.
for the therapeutic relationship, obviously that had a.
There needs to be some closure.
Did you not get any? Like she didn't have.
She just left. She left a voicemail on my mom's phone, I think.
Oh my God.
Yeah, it was unique, but I mean, it was fine.
It's not fine. I'm like appalled.
That's my favorite word.
Everything's fine. No, it's
fine.
Like as a therapist, I'm appalled to hear that story that you didn't get in. Like for me, like I try to do at least 2 or 3 sessions of like, hey, this is over. You know, like at least, yeah. So
yeah,
that sucks, man. I'm sorry that happened.
You know, I'm saying this. I don't have a lot of like clear memory of. I think that's just part of like the whole anxiety thing of like certain moments in childhood. So this is my perception of it as, what was I, 13, as a 13-year-old. So if I get a text from my mom being like, oh no, she left me an email, I'll be like, oh, okay.
Yeah. Did it take a long time? Like, well, I guess, did you ever go back to therapy after that? Or is that something?
Yeah, just not like immediately, I don't think.
Okay, it took some time.
Yeah. And it's not like I was like scorned or whatever. I was just kind of like, okay, I guess I'm done.
Well, I'm sorry that you had that experience, but I'm happy to hear.
Oh God, it was years ago. But yeah.
Yeah. It's fine. Everything's fine.
It's fine. I'm fine.
So I want to ask you, like, speak as much or as little as you would like about this. But like you mentioned anxiety, depression. Like when I was a very anxious kid too. I think I've talked about it on the podcast before. Like I was always worried about dying. Like I was like, I'm gonna choke on my food.
Oh yeah.
I was so freaked out about dying. I had OCD. I remember early on, like I would obsess about the channels when I was watching TV, and it would have to end on a 0 or a 5. When I would close doors, sometimes I would sit there for like 10 fucking minutes, like.
Oh, make sure it's closed right.
Yeah, and it didn't feel right when I released my hand. So can you speak a little bit about like what you mean about anxiety, as much or as little as you'd like?
I mean, that's definitely what's still sticking with me. I think everyone deals with some sort of anxiety or panic or whatever, just the brain overworking. But this does kind of link to another thing later, but what was I gonna say? Yeah, so I overthink a lot.
Okay.
I will think myself into a pit of despair. And that, like, if someone doesn't text me back, not even like they need to text me back, but I'm thinking in my head, oh, they're dead in the ditch. You know?
Yeah.
Yeah. It's not like, oh, they hate me. It's like, oh, they're dead. They're gone. Oops. That's it.
That's a very like, that would be
it's very dark.
No, it's like a huge weight to feel all the time too.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Yep. I feel like I take on a lot of other people's emotions and other people's worry. And I hold on to it, and I feel very stressed out that other people are feeling these emotions, and I don't want them to feel these emotions. And it just, I guess I absorb a lot, and it just sticks around.
I'm going to ask you, it's just a question that came up and I want to ask you. It's a very therapy question. Okay.
Love it.
Do you ever think that maybe, have you thought about this? I'm going to ask, have you thought about this? Do you think that might be something that you do because it's easier to like worry about other people's shit than your shit?
100%. Oh yeah.
Okay. Yeah.
I am not afraid. Yeah.
Yeah.
No, I'd much rather deal with other people's stuff than my stuff.
But then in turn,
I feel like
fuck. Oh, go ahead. Sorry.
I was just gonna say, I feel like that's semi-universal, maybe not to like the same extent, but you know,
it's super normal. That's a super normal thing.
Yeah.
But then in turn, it's like, well, then I got all this other shit, and then it's like,
oh yeah,
I'm overwhelmed. And
but I don't ask for help. You know, I don't want to. You know, I'd rather help other people, but I won't ask anyone for help.
It's fine. It's fine.
It's fine. I'm fine.
So like, so obviously, like with things like that, the anxiety and stuff, like as it like continues to build and build and build and build over time, a lot of times it can turn into depression. Were you ever diagnosed like clinically with depression or anxiety?
Really young.
Speak a little bit about like the depression side without going all into it, because I know it can be a difficult thing to talk about.
I mean, I think it's just more of like a processing thing for me.
Mm-hmm.
You know, or maybe like hyperfixating on the bad sometimes, even though like I am kind of like a toxic optimist. I try now, like now in my adulthood, optimism is key for me. Mm-hmm. And I feel like I use that as like a way to not get into the dark and scary, which works most of the time. But, you know, I don't know. It's been a while since I've had that. Luckily, you know, it's been a while since I've been feeling that. And I feel like it could kind of like segue into like the whole chronic illness thing where, you know,
we can do that. Yeah.
Well, I think like the last time I was really feeling that sort of darkness was before I was diagnosed with everything.
For our viewers, because we talked a little bit before.
Oh yeah, I forgot this was before.
No, it's okay. So for people that are listening, Monica, I'm gonna let you like fix everything I screw up when I say this. But Monica has been diagnosed with rheumatoid arthritis.
Yep.
And EDS.
You don't. Yeah.
I call it EDS. Can you speak to people about what it is? Speak about what it is, like what it causes for you in your day to day, and like, you know, go into what you were talking about with the mental part of it.
Yeah. Well. So, you know, as a 23-year-old getting diagnosed, well, let's start with rheumatoid arthritis, which, you know, I feel like that's more commonly known. But people hear the word arthritis and assume, you know, like a 7-year-old man. So, you know, getting diagnosed with what people assume is like an old people disease you know, I was 19, I think, when I got my official diagnosis, maybe 20. And, you know, I hear the phrase, oh, but you're so young. You're too young for that, constantly. Constantly. And that kind of, you know, it breeds a little self-doubt. There's a lot of like imposter syndrome with invisible illnesses and invisible chronic illnesses. Like you can look at me on a good day and be like, oh, she's fine. You know, she could go run a marathon. And
Monica, will you define imposter syndrome for anybody that doesn't know what that means? Yeah.
I mean, I can.
What you know it as. What you know it as. Yeah.
So just the self-doubt of constantly telling yourself, gaslighting yourself, basically saying, oh, you're just making it up. It's fine. Especially, it's super bad on like good days. Like when I'm feeling good, when I can go hiking, when I can go around and just not be in terrible pain. You know, I convince myself I'm fine. You know, it's all in my head. And I feel like that can be said for like a lot of people my age, or a lot of people that have kind of, actually, there's this term that I really like called a dynamic disability. A woman named Brianne Brennis kind of coined that. And it's just people with the chronic illnesses that have ebbs and flows sometimes don't feel like they can identify as disabled because I can go hiking sometimes. I can work on my good days and all of that. So it really, there's a lot of identity issues with identifying with like disabled because people look at me and they don't think that. So the dynamic disability kind of goes with stuff, invisible stuff you can't see that feels kind of like invalid sometimes.
Can you I have thoughts about this. This is super I've never thought about what you're talking about ever. But that's just because I haven't had that experience.
Yeah.
So like in my work, I've worked with people that have RA. But for anybody that hasn't known anybody or worked with people that have it, can you like, obviously you're talking about pain, but can you speak more specifically about like what it does to your body and like on a bad day as opposed to days you can go hiking, like what it looks like?
Yeah. So it is an inflammatory disease that people just think it kind of, hurts your joints or your joints swell. It's a lot more in depth than that. It can affect like your organ system and everything like that. So I guess I'll kind of bounce back to the EDS, which is, I have a hard time saying it, Ehlers-Danlos syndrome, which is kind of like a symptom of autoimmune, which is like hypermobility, which means that my joints are extra stretchy, which as a kid, I thought like, oh, I'm just flexible. But now it's like actually causing some issues for me. Like with all of my joints, just the combination of the inflammation and the extra stretchiness of it. What was I saying?
You were talking, you were starting to give like the part of, I don't know how to say it, EDS, and like how to,
Let's talk about brain fog. That's a whole nother system. That's what people don't think about when they think about like chronic illnesses and chronic pain. My brain will just stop working. Like I'll be mid-sentence, probably like I just was. And because of like inflammation and just the pain and like focusing on a million other things happening in my body, because my body doesn't go on autopilot most times. I've got to, like when I'm walking, I feel everything. It's not just like, oh, I have to get from point A to point B. So my body just does it. I have to think about like, oh, my ankles are popping every step, or, oh, my hips might slide out of place and stuff like that. So when you're constantly thinking about what your body does automatically, you just, stuff goes awry upstairs. And,
there's like too much. Is it like too much is it just like almost
over processing?
Yeah, like there's too much to process, and then it's just like shut down, fuck it all.
Yeah.
Like, okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
I mean, basically, yeah. I'll be in the middle of a sentence. It's so bad at work because I'm focusing on doing hair, but I also have in the back of my mind the pain, and so I'll be mid-sentence while like cutting someone's hair, and have absolutely no clue what I'm talking about. I'd be like, what was I saying? And they'd be like, I don't even know. So that's a fun symptom that most people don't even think about.
I would have never thought of that. But that's honestly, that's good for me to know, like moving forward in my professional life when I'm working with somebody that I know has RA, because then I'll be like, okay, it wasn't that they weren't listening. It's just, they just had like an over-processing situation and I just need to help them like get back where we were. It's
been interesting, especially since my diagnosis, but also just since social media has evolved and, information has evolved. And kind of my favorite phrase, especially for the past few years, election, etc., is in the age of information, ignorance is a choice. So we have the world at our fingertips if someone is experiencing something or whatever, your first instinct shouldn't be to doubt their experiences in their life. It should be to educate yourself, because it gets exhausting. I mean, obviously not right now. That's the whole reason why I'm here. But it gets exhausting in my day-to-day life to have to validate all of my experiences and have to go through them constantly with other people and describe to other people, what the pain is like, or explain to them why I don't look like I'm sick.
Mm-hmm.
So I feel like my biggest message for other people is to just trust that people with chronic illnesses know their body a heck of a lot more than you do, and just trust what they're saying. You don't need an explanation. You don't need the details,
I love that you said that, because like with anything in now,
Yeah.
in today's like political climate, social climate,
Yeah.
whatever you want to call it, like everybody errs on the side of like caution and like not wanting to believe what somebody's saying, when really we should be like erring on the side of empathy and like, and then ruling things
Yeah.
out. It could be with it could be with anything. It could be like race relations. It could be anything. Some people just have this predisposition to be like, nah, they're just lazy, or like
instant
they're
doubt,
just
instant doubt of other people.
and it pisses me off. But
it's not great.
No, it's not a good thing. So yeah, I love that you shared that message, and I hope that people either agree with what you're saying, or if they don't agree, they at least like consider to think of the alternative.
Yeah.
I'm being mindful of time. We have about 20-30 minutes. Okay.
Yeah.
Something like that. I want to know just a little bit more about, I have one more question about RA and EDS. Are there certain things like, oh shit, what's the word I'm looking for? I'm just gonna say things that contribute to the pain more than other things, or like, are there themes in like when you feel good, or is it just completely random? What have you noticed?
Well, this weather has been knocking me out. Just that polar vortex or whatever was, I can feel the weather in my bones before I get out of bed. It's ridiculous. And I always thought that was so weird. Be like, oh, seeing it on TV, like, oh, my knees are telling me it's going to rain outside. No, it actually does. Like, yes, that's the truth. Which I'm not a scientist, so I don't know why that actually happens. But
no, I was going to ask you, have they ever like given you any education about that? Like any of your medical professionals that you've?
Well, first of all, medical professionals don't actually give you any information on anything. They give you a diagnosis and a bill and sometimes some drugs. And I've done a lot of my research on my own. I go to a rheumatologist and I see a nurse practitioner there and stuff like that. And she's great, but I see her 15 minutes every 3 to 4 months. I've done most of my research on my own because they deal with so much other stuff or whatever. But yeah, you've just got to be your own advocate with education on, which sucks because I'm paying these people. Like
It
I
super
totally
sucks.
just lost my train of thought.
No, it's okay. You were talking about how essentially you were saying like the healthcare system isn't ideal because like you have these really complex medical problems. And you only get like 15 minutes of time with people. And then you have to do all the work or the educating on your own.
Yeah. So I think that also kind of leads to the stigma of chronic illnesses because medical professionals don't talk about it a lot. The people that are advocating for themselves online and advocating for themselves in the doctor's office have to, do their own research. I was originally told that it was hormones and growing pains and XYZ, my birth control and all sorts of stuff. It wasn't until I went to like my chiropractor, who was a saint. She was like, you are not reacting to this the way you should be. There's something going on. Like your body is not, like I was getting adjusted and everything was swelling. And I was just like, this is causing so much pain when it should be relieving pain. And she was like, you need to go to a rheumatologist because it could be some sort of inflammatory situation. And she was right. So I was lucky enough to have her because I was originally going to my primary care and, they were telling me the usual, especially that they tell women, it's hormones. It's, just stupid stuff like that. You just get dismissed and you have to be your own advocate. And
it's wild. It's
super fun.
I obviously can't speak to being a woman. But I can speak to like the healthcare system and like having my own struggles and like
Yeah.
I don't know if it's like healthcare in America is like very profit driven and like we're trying to get as many people in and make as much money as we can, or
Yeah.
I don't know what the problem is, but I definitely agree that like diagnosis is important, medically speaking, for sure. Um, because it like eliminates all this shit that you have to do on your own and all these hoops you have to do and all the wrong
Hmm.
medications they put you on. And I don't know what the answer is, but I definitely identify as a problem too. And I think we could talk about healthcare in America for like 55 hours.
Yeah. I am extremely privileged to be 23 and on my dad's insurance.
mm, oh, that's
I
not even like a thing I have in my head anymore. That's good.
I can't imagine going through, especially the diagnosis process on like without insurance or on like Medicare or so, because that's probably when I turn 26, that's probably what I'm going to get on. It's like what is it called?
The Affordable Care Act.
Obamacare. Yeah, whatever.
Yeah.
And because during the diagnosis process, it took about a year
Mm-hmm.
of going to my primary care, of getting blood work, of getting ultrasounds because x-rays don't work and stuff like that, which is super weird. People think ultrasounds is just babies. But the process of all of that. And then because I was young, not all my inflammatory markers are super built up. So there was a lot of doubt with that. And it just kind of extended the process. But I can't imagine going through that without insurance, because even with insurance, it put me in a little hole,
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
like it's expensive to be sick in America.
It's near impossible with insurance, and it's impossible without it. Like there's no good option, and but I don't know. It makes me I get filled with anger when I hear stories like this, and I hear like it's just so silly. We're the richest country in the world, and here we are.
Allegedly. Anyways.
Yeah. So mindful of time. Okay.
Yes.
So I want you to speak a little bit because it's very topical. Everybody's going through this pandemic in their own way. We're coming up on a year going through it. Can you speak a little bit about like having a small business and like also like, so what did that do to your small business? And two, like what did it feel like and what did it do to you personally having an autoimmune disorder or two of them? Speak a little bit about that.
Yeah, so that's been pretty hard. I've spent the past year hearing, oh, it only affects people with illnesses and old people. And I'm like, that's me. Like, I'm just, I've spent the past year being told that people like me are dispensable and that like, oh, they shouldn't count towards the numbers because they're already sick.
Mm-hmm.
And that like, oh, well, they're the only ones getting sick, which A, is just not true. And B, just leads to people dismissing people that are sick and telling them that they can go ahead and die.
That's kind of what it is, right?
Yeah, it is. And I've spent the past year hearing that, and that like on Facebook, seeing family members post it, like distant family members, but still just posting like, oh, I'm not going to wear a mask because I'm perfectly healthy. Just, yeah. So that's been one of my biggest issues. I was very lucky to have opened my loft. So I'm just in a loft. I'm not in charge of anyone. I just rent. And where I moved is awesome. Shout out to Complex Studios. Shout out to Julie and Al. They've been super great through all of this. And yeah, the business side I feel lucky compared to a lot of other people. Mm-hmm. The illness side it's been hard. Just hearing just all of the, dispensable, whatever. Sorry, what were you saying?
No, I was going to say, like, it's interesting to hear you talk about it because I didn't foresee you going like that route, like about, I don't want to like misquote you, but like your disapproval of how people have approached this pandemic and like how they don't consider people outside of like themselves.
Yeah.
But I also like, because I would have assumed that you would have talked about like what like your worries and your anxieties about being exposed to the virus and like all that, but you seem to be having more, you're tussling more with like other people and like how they're not considering that like this could be potentially bad for you.
Not just me. There's so many more people. It's called an invisible illness for a reason. There's so many people dealing with it. Probably a larger percentage of people have autoimmune that don't, whether they know it or not, whether they're aware of it. And just kind of dismissing such a huge chunk of the population just so you don't have to wear a mask is just like obscene to me. It's just like the most selfish thing in the world. And I don't think a lot of people have hate in their heart when they say stuff like that. I think that it's just the lack of education and the lack of thought when they, just throw that out there as a reason. It's like, oh, only chronic illness or chronically ill people get sick, or autoimmune people get sick. I do think that was the hardest, because I was lucky enough to be able to kind of just like shelter in place. I just stayed at home. I watched so much TV and stuff like that. I was lucky enough that I could be at home a lot and not expose myself.
Yeah, that's good. And I mean, there's never been a better year for streaming services than this.
Oh my God. I think I have every single one. It's disgusting.
They've added up for us too.
I'm like, I might as well get cable.
Yeah, I saw somebody say on the internet, like, remember when streaming services were supposed to save you money? And it's like, oh shit, yeah, like.
Yeah, it's like, okay, I've got Disney Plus, Netflix, all that. It's ridiculous.
Shit, I had a thought when you were talking about, I got to try to remember it. And if I don't remember it, I'm going to just move on, because I don't want have people listen to just silence. Okay. So,
yeah.
I don't remember. It's okay. I do want to ask you, like, you had mentioned resilient as one of your words. Mm-hmm. And I think after, like, obviously I knew you before this, and after people have listened to like the first 45 minutes of this or whatever, like they can probably surmise, like, knowing the things that you've gone through with mental health and like now physical health and everything. I think that people can identify that, but I want to talk about another topic. And I want to do it delicately. Because, some of the things you told me before we started recording. But you had mentioned that you had lost. You mentioned that you had lost. Well, first you said that through the divorce you had gained 2 siblings, and then you had mentioned that one had passed away. You said it very briefly. I don't know if people caught it. I want you to like speak a little bit about that, as much or as little as you'd like. I know you want to like consider your other family members and stuff, but what was that like for you? When did it happen? That kind of stuff.
So, I want to start off by saying my family finds joy in talking about him. It's a good, we like to talk about him. His name is Matt. My nephew is named after him. So we lost him. It was actually my first week of high school, the first Friday at a new school. It was actually Steven's birthday. I don't know if anyone knew that.
Steven's her brother.
Yeah, Steven's my brother. So I'm Monica. Steven is older than me. Taylor's older than him, and Matt was the oldest of all of us. Okay. Which I feel like this past year has been interesting for me, because he passed away when he was 22. So when I turned, sorry, I'm a little choked up. I'm fine.
It's okay.
When I turned 23 and I was like older than he was, that was a little interesting for me. But as the youngest losing the oldest, the middle two had a different relationship with him than I did. He was kind of like the protector of me. He knew where to draw the line with the picking on the little sister. But he was a great person. We all miss him a lot. That was 2012.
2012. You would have been like 8th grade or some 7th grade, 8th grade.
It was freshman year.
Okay. You were freshman.
Freshman year. And yeah, it was rough for everyone in different ways. I feel like everyone experienced it a lot different. But you know, I was lucky to know him when I did, and I take that and I just kind of hold on to that part.
Yeah, that's like through the positive lens that you were talking about. And I want to know, you mentioned that everybody, I don't remember how you put it, but they processed it differently. And grieving for people, it's a different journey for everyone.
100%. Yeah.
And I won't make you speak to what it was like for your other siblings or your parents or anything like that. But like, what do you think? Like, how did it? Like, what did you do? Like, how did it affect you? Like, how did you get through it? Like, what did you notice in yourself?
So, like I said, we had a different relationship than the other two did. I spent a little bit feeling like I got cheated out of a good relationship with him. Because like I didn't get to grow up and like spend adulthood with him. But I don't really know what to say. Sorry.
It's okay.
I'm trying to think. How did I process it? I spent time at first I kind of wanted he was about to graduate from college, and I had thought about kind of going to his college and doing stuff like that and honoring him that way, but like it wasn't a fit, but I just kind of like to honor him by just remembering all the good stuff he did for everybody, like he volunteered in Belize and helped do a bunch of awesome stuff. And he was just a very kind-hearted, happy, athletic, he was just a great dude. And I just kind of try to honor him.
Yeah.
He was a great dude. And just kind of like remembering that and just kind of living life the way that he would want to, just helping people.
Yeah, I was going to ask you, like, I have a couple of thoughts. One, I appreciate I appreciate you sharing what you have, and I know it's difficult subject matter, and I appreciate you sharing. The residual effects of the passing of your brother. Is it something that you and your family talked about, like throughout the whole, like up front and like throughout the whole thing? Is it something you talk about now? Like, what does that look like? Are you guys open about it? Do you guys talk about it?
Yeah, we don't talk about him in hushed tones, like it's not
good.
No, we talk about, like, especially with my other siblings, occasionally we'll be like, oh my God, Matt would have loved that, or Matt would have hated that, like stuff like that. It's like, I don't want to say he casually gets brought up, but it's not like a no to talk about him. And that feels good, like we very much remember him through talking about him and talking about jokes and stuff. And just talking about the good stuff.
And yeah, it's like there's no like that those things happened, or like that does remind, and that just is what it is.
And I feel like this is something that I can speak on my siblings. It brings peace, talking about him and like the happy memories and stuff, which there are very few not happy memories with Matt, like he's just like a chipper guy. But yeah, it just feels good.
I think that's wonderful. And another question I had was, because you mentioned like the turning 23 and that holding a lot of weight for you. I know that got you a little bit emotional, so that's not entirely specifically what I'm talking about. I want to know, like, now that you're 23, do you hold a weight in yourself, or are you motivated? Let me back up. So like, I've never lost a sibling. I've lost a very dear friend of mine when she was very young, similar to Matt's age. And it was like very sudden, and it didn't make a lot of sense. And I still to this day, I'm 31, and I think about her often, and I think like, I feel fortunate to still be living and like experiencing life. And I think like I almost motivate myself to like do things like to like speak, listen to my inner voice, and like because I'm like she doesn't have that opportunity. So do you feel
Yeah.
any way to do similar things, like knowing that Matt doesn't have the opportunity to live life that you have now? Like, do you hold weight to do that? Are you motivated by that?
I don't, motivation is the right word, but wait,
Hmm.
I feel like, I don't feel like it's a chore. Like, I don't feel like it's something I have to do. I don't feel the guilt to do it. I feel more like inspiration
Cool.
to, I
Hmm.
feel like it's more like, I do find myself sometimes wondering, like, what would he be doing right now? Like, what would his life be like?
Hmm.
But, it's always like good.
Hmm.
He'd be doing something awesome,
The Belize thing's awesome. Like that's a
Yeah.
really cool thing that he was doing at such a
Yeah.
young age. That's really rad.
Yeah.
Um, okay, well, I mean, before we transition into the next topic, I just want to make sure that you feel like heard, and or if there's anything else that you want to say about Matt, or
Oh, no, we're
please.
good. Yeah.
You're all right.
I'm
Okay,
good. Yeah.
appreciate you sharing.
My face gets so red.
It's
I'm like,
okay. It's just the body and stuff.
it's the bag. It's fine.
So, what do we have on time here? Few minutes.
Yeah.
So,
No.
I want to we were talking very briefly before this started about your tech. I'm a millennial, and you're you're technically in this gray area that
Yeah.
I was unaware of between millennials and Gen Z.
Yeah.
So, and you said something like that you take the positives from both. Can you speak a little bit about what it's like to
Oh,
be
yeah.
born
I pick and
in
choose which one I
'97?
am.
Yeah, yeah.
I pick and
Tell us
choose
about
which one,
this.
depending on what's happening. So I'm 97, which
Mhm,
is highly debated whether or not that's the year that starts Gen Z or whatever, which
mhm.
I think is so lame. Like, it's just a whole nother way to divide people. Like this whole skinny jeans thing, people are freaking out. It's like, wear
What is
whatever you want.
what is it?
Oh,
What is that?
well,
Sorry, yeah, I'm
no,
a millennial.
there's a debate about the middle part versus the side part, and how side parts are out and skinny jeans are out. And I'm just like, this is what we're talking about right now.
Yeah.
This is the big discussion.
Mhm.
But I just kind of pick and choose,
Okay,
So
that's a good spot to
sometimes
be
we get called like the zillennials, which that's a hard word to say, or the lost years or whatever.
in. Mhm.
But like I've always had a phone since I was young. It was a brick phone, like a little Nokia. I didn't have
Yeah.
like an iPhone until high school,
Mhm.
but I wasn't raised on an iPad, but
Yeah.
I also wasn't, I don't know, raised on a desktop computer with DSL. So
That's interesting because the last two things you said was me. Like
yeah,
I grew up with a desktop and like instant messaging, and then I had
we
a Nokia.
had that from my older siblings, but like I was kind of like the one getting the newer stuff.
Sure, yeah, and I had the Nokia when I was in high school. No phone before that. So that's interesting.
Well, that's a whole other thing with the parents' divorce. Like me and my brother shared a phone for
Okay.
that. Like we weren't like texting everybody. It was just to call the other parent, and I think that's the only numbers that were in it.
Yeah.
But we still played outside all summer and stuff like that. But yeah, I think I got the best of both worlds.
Yeah, I think that's a good spot to be in. It's a good way to think about it. There was
Yeah.
something that you put on the internet recently that I read, and it was like
Me?
I think, yeah. It was about, I think it was about Phil Dunphy from Modern Family.
Oh, I love Phil Dunphy.
Me too, by the way. Sam and I just started binging. I've been waiting for Modern Family to become bingeable for like 8 years.
Oh my god. No, I'm on like season 5 already.
Yeah, we're on season 3. We've been churning out too. But you like Phil Dunphy's my favorite character, and it probably goes for anybody that hasn't seen it. Watch it, number one. But if you have,
best show ever. It's on Hulu.
Yeah, Phil Dunphy, Cam, and then probably Little Luke in that order are my favorite characters. I really like.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Phil, Lily is hilarious, and she just gets more and more hilarious. But their little daughter, she is the best.
Yeah.
And then I like Gloria.
Gloria's great.
Gloria's great. I think they're all great. I think they're all hilarious. And the funny thing is, like the mixed family and stuff like that, like I relate to it so hard. And the way, like my family, especially on my dad's side with my stepmom and like my whole step family, like they're all really close. I've got 2 gay uncles that like are very close, and we spend a lot of time together, especially like before all this. And it's just so funny how uncanny some of it is. So yeah, it's very, very relatable.
It's super
for my
good.
side.
It's like there's like a lot of dark things that they point out in families, and like, but it's like very done in a very light comical, clever way, and that's what I like about it. It's like they point out things that are like pretty dramatic and stuff, but they do it in like a delicate, like comedic way, and it's a beautiful show. It really is.
It's great.
So, but you had used an acronym that I was unfamiliar with to describe Phil Dunphy. Do you know what I'm talking about? It was like, it started with an H.
Is it on Twitter?
Yeah, it was on Twitter. And I was like, oh, this is
with an H.
Me being older and not knowing.
I make my Twitter account a hate account most of the time for characters I dislike. So
it was something like that. And you're right, but for Phil Dunphy, it's
I'm trying to find it. Oh, my tweets are so stupid. That's my dump page.
I like it. It's funny. I get
Oh, it's a Stan account. Is that what you're looking for? That's all I talked about. That's
Stan
the only account. Stan.
What is that? That's it. What is that?
Oh, okay. I guess, is this a Gen Z thing? I think it's a Gen Z thing.
I think so.
Like saying like, oh, I stan this. It's just like, oh, I like him. Like I don't actually, this is where I'm the combination of millennial and Gen Z, because I don't actually know what it stands for, but I use it.
So it's STAN all caps, right?
Well, I use it all caps because I'm aggressive, but I don't think it's an acronym. It might be. I don't know. I think it's from Tumblr, which I only had for a short period of time. Okay. But I do definitely use Gen Z lingo without knowing what 50% of it is.
This is a microcosm.
Might get me in trouble because I might say something really stupid and have absolutely no idea.
There's probably like a 19-year-old that's going to listen to this and be like, these fucking people. Like,
no, I'll probably have a client listen to it and come in. That's where I get all my info, is like all my high school clients. And the internet.
Cool. So it just means you like them.
Yeah, I stand Phil Dunphy. Yeah.
This person's cool. This person's awesome. That's
okay.
All right.
I think it just means I like him. I really hope it doesn't mean anything else, because I don't know.
People are going to be Googling like, Stan, what does this mean? All right. So a couple minutes. I just want to I want to wrap it up. Sure. And I wanted to give you an opportunity. Like, what are you, because you mentioned like maybe wanting to get out of St. Louis. I don't really know how strongly you feel about it, but what do you want? Like, you're 23, let's say by 30 or next 5 years, what does Monica want out of her life? What's going on? What's going on with you?
I don't know. St. Louis is affordable and there's lots of free stuff to do. It's a good place to be in your 20s. I feel like it's, but I want to see more. I've barely been out of the country. I think I was the only time I've been out of the country is on a cruise, which that doesn't even count. Anyway,
it's just ocean everywhere. Yeah.
Well, it's just ocean and, westernized little things that you dock onto, and it's basically little America. But I just want to go see more. I want to go see life. I want to travel, which I feel like a lot of people can say right now. We've been stuck at home so much. But I don't know. I definitely would consider moving somewhere else. But I don't want to be the type of person that moves somewhere and is completely like dirt poor and struggling the whole time after feeling cushy here. You know what I mean? Yeah. I want to move somewhere when I'm established.
That makes sense. Do you feel is Angelo in the same thought process with you? Like, are you guys both like, you want to see more stuff? And
we just kind of both. He wasn't really raised in St. Louis. He was in New Mexico for quite a bit and moved back here in high school. So he's seen a little bit more than, he's actually born in Canada. He's seen a little bit more than me. Yeah. He was only there for like a year, but I I definitely want to see a little bit more. It's an option to move up north or maybe out of the country, get some better healthcare.
Yeah. I'm sick. Help me.
Yes.
That's cool. I hope that you guys, maybe you guys can have some shared experiences. He can take you places he's been, and then you guys can go do things that neither of you have. I hope that for you.
I think both of us just kind of have like an open process for all of it. We don't have like,
I think, but you're also speaking practically too. Like you need to feel more established, probably financially and with your career and stuff until you do that. But I think that's good. And I think just listen to your intuition and shit will be fine. So we're at the end here. I just want to know, do you have any final thoughts before we wrap this up?
I don't think so. I feel like we've covered a lot.
Yeah. I appreciate you coming on.
Appreciate you having me.
Appreciate everybody listening. I'll have a new episode released next week, Monday, like before noon, probably. Thanks for coming on, Monica.
Heck yeah. Thanks.
Right. Cool.
See ya.